Hello, everybody, and welcome to the October 23rd Mount Mansfield School Board meeting. I am Edie Granning, Board Chair, and I am going to run through the agenda and get the meeting started. So thanks, everybody, for being here. We have community comments to start the meeting, and then we move on to the budget priorities, which is presentation from the principals this meeting. We will approve, I hope, the student drug and alcohol policy that was warned previously and warn two other policies, participation of home study student policy and travel reimbursement policy. We have after that a discussion on the VSBA resolutions, and we'll talk about how we would like our board to vote on those. Approve the meeting minutes from the previous meeting on October 10th, committee reports, and any other business before we adjourn. Does anybody have any modifications, changes to the agenda? And just a tiny technical thing, the screen here is hard to see. So if you need our attention, if you're not actually here in the meeting, you may have to actually push the raise hand button because it'll ding in the room here, and then we'll know that that you would like to speak. Okay, then Pat, if you would please call the roll.
Tara Anderson. Present. Kevin Campbell.
Present.
Heather Chadwick. Present. Gail Conley. Eric Gildemeister. Edie Grenning.
Here.
Diane Kirsten Glitman.
She'll be late.
Susan Lillick.
Here.
Ethan Maurer.
Not going to be here tonight.
Stuart Morajo. Katie Nelson. Here. Lisa Pollock. Here. Andrew Pond.
Not here tonight. Thank you. Community comments. Is there anybody from the community that has something to share with the board? I heard a ding, but I don't see any hands.
I think it was something in the chat.
Oh, Allison's here. Okay.
Oh, Allison.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no community comments, then we are moving to the budget priorities, part 2 principle. So this is the part 2, second part of our budget priority presentation, and this is the information that helps inform what the budget will be comprised of once it is fully put together. No worries. Okay, so are we starting in order of the
Yes.
slides? Okay, so Rebecca and Gretchen, if you wouldn't mind, everyone who's presenting, just do a very quick introduction, who you are, what school you work at, and then please take us through your priorities.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gretchen Muller. I'm the principal at Campbelltown Middle School.
I'm Rebecca Marsh, the assistant principal at Browns River Middle School.
So the first priority that Rebecca and I are going to speak about is to support the social, emotional, and mental health and well-being of both students and adults in our school communities. The importance of attending to social emotional areas continues to be a vital part of ensuring students are successful in all learning environments. There's a variety of programs and systems that our schools have implemented and continue to strengthen in our district to really help students build their capacity to interact with their peers and adults in a positive and safe manner, while also receiving the additional help they may need to develop their ability to manage emotions, practice strategies, and ensure they can access their education. As we know, the well-being of all of our students is a crucial priority for our district.
In several of our preschool and elementary schools, teachers and school counselors use a program called Second Step that focuses on social emotional learning. It teaches students vital skills such as perspective taking, displaying empathy, managing emotions, and resolving conflicts. This skill building continues into the middle schools with additional classes taught by school counselors. Some of the topics at the middle level include goal setting, peer pressure, bullying, harassment, effective communication, and more. The curriculum and support provided through our guidance department in K-8 is currently being reviewed and aligned to have a clear scope and sequence. An additional part of this work is maintaining the funding for the use of a social emotional learning screening tool that can provide schools with real-time information on how students are feeling, how they feel a sense of belonging, what their needs may be, and gives us the ability to intervene in a proactive manner.
In our middle schools and high schools, advisories are one additional way that we support the social and emotional well-being of students. Our ability as a district to maintain a strong advisory program at both the middle and high school levels provides opportunities for students to gather in small groups with the same adult each week throughout the student's time at the specific school they're at. And advisories create really those small communities within our larger school communities with the ultimate goal of intentionally making time for students to connect, share experiences, learn from one another, and support one another with the help of a trusted, safe adult in the school. Advisories also provide time where relationships are built between peers and adults, where everyone feels valued and everyone is seen, heard, and understanding of others. These structures continue to support our district focus on social emotional well-being and overall positive development.
All of our schools employ student support teams, which are groups of adults consisting of administrators, counselors, school nurses, who meet regularly to discuss the needs of our students and develop strategies to address any concerns. Many of our schools also partner with outside providers who are integral to the shared vision of this work. Unfortunately, some of these partnerships have become less accessible due to challenges these organizations are facing to employ and maintain trained staff. Some have had to close altogether, which has impacted our buildings this school year. We as a district are experiencing fewer options for additional outside support, which has an impact on our schools, as many students need the expertise of trained behavioral interventionists and other support personnel. MMUUSD needs to grow our capacity within the district to be able to effectively and efficiently provide the needed supports to our students. It would benefit our district to proactively plan to train and establish a team of BCBAs, board certified behavior analysts, and behavior interventionists, BIs, for social and emotional learning and intervention. We do continue to collaborate with Howard Center social workers. We use the expertise of Joelle Van Lent, a highly regarded psychologist and consultant. However, this doesn't cover all of our needs, and we continue to look at these partnerships and what's possible with them.
So we know that in order for students to be successful in academics, they need to have their social emotional needs met in addition to feeling a sense of belonging and seeing themselves as an integral part of all facets of the school and classroom. So the examples that Rebecca and I shared will help us meet our goals of ensuring that our students feel valued, respected, appreciated, and loved. Does anyone have any questions for Rebecca and I? Great, thank you.
I have questions. Sorry, I was trying to make sure nobody else had questions before I jumped in. So we added positions using ESSER money, and is that still, and I don't know if you can answer this or if John needs to answer this, do we still have the ESSER money covering it, or is this money that is no longer covered by that?
With the positions that we had covered with ESSER will be done at the end of this year.
And we're keeping all of those positions?
On our first draft, that's what we're trying to do.
And adding new positions also?
Well, right now, we have out-of-district placements and contract services. So we're gonna look to use some of that money because we can't find some of the providers. We're gonna use that money to hire our own and then train our own behavioral interventionists. Mary shared a little bit about that at our meeting at Brewster Pierce. So the first round, we're gonna, at least the first draft, we're gonna try to keep those ESSER positions. There weren't a ton because we didn't get a lot of money, but most of them were directed towards either supporting, social emotional learning and behavior, or intervention, actual intervention because of a specific reason.
So I wanted to make sure everybody kind of understands that piece of it. And I also want to make sure folks understand what happens if we don't do this.
Oh, that's, what would it look like if we were to cut back in this area?
Gretchen, Rebecca?
I think that's a good question. It would be really challenging to be able to do everything that we need to do on a daily basis while also having staff to meet with students one-on-one or in small groups to really provide the support that they need. And some people don't have that expertise or skill set in terms of the intense social, emotional, or behavioral support. So it would be really challenging to not have, especially if we didn't have the outside services that we have right now. We wouldn't meet the needs that are outlined in their specific learning and behavior plans.
Yeah, I think
So
in general, it'll just strain our systems a little bit. For an example, we lost an organization called Centerpoint, closed, and we didn't specifically fund the counselors from Centerpoint, but they did kind of come in and use our space and provided services to some of our students. That organization has closed, so that eliminated access to counseling for some of our students. And so those needs are going to kind of bounce back to our system where our counselors are going to need to respond more often to some of the needs that partner programs previously provided, and it'll just kind of strain our resources a little bit more, but we'll do the best we can.
Thank you so much. Making sure nobody else has other questions. All right, thank you. Jeremy, Derek, you could do a quick intro and.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jeremy Rector. I'm the principal of Richmond Elementary School.
Hi, and I'm Derek Howard. I'm the principal of Smiley Memorial School.
We're going to provide a brief overview of our multi-tiered system of supports, the goals and the influences and expenditures. So multi-tiered system of supports is really looking at our entire system and breaking it down into multiple parts and asking how they all support one another and students to their greatest potential. Really, when Derek and I were talking earlier, this one priority actually can be seen and felt in each of the other priorities. And I can kind of outline that in a little bit. In terms of curriculum, is where many folks will see it. It presents as a tier 1 or at the first level. This is what classroom teachers are providing. Just the general instruction, the curriculum that we're choosing, the materials that we're accessing. That is kind of that first tier of instruction. And the second tier is kind of if a student is struggling with some of that content, how are we going to support them? What can a teacher modify or adjust in order to support students and help meet them where they're at? And then that tier 3, that next tier is if it goes beyond that and a student is still struggling or still needs additional supports or different supports, what can we provide to help them? And oftentimes we'll use interventionists, either specific literacy interventionists or math interventionists, or someone who's skilled in kind of both areas. So that's kind of a basic overview of that multi-tiered system. Really, students can have access to all 3 tiers. That's a critical component, and they're additive, right? So a student that is struggling with content area doesn't get pulled from our classrooms. They, receive tier 3 supports in, say, reading or math, or social emotional, in addition to their tier 2 supports or tier 1 supports. And that's where you'll kind of see, if I quickly gonna connect to the priorities, right? We use that lens, this concept of multi-tiered system with our social, emotional, and mental health aspects. That's kind of what led us to those conversations around the BCBAs that Gretchen and Rebecca were just outlining, right? When that community support, when we're used to those tier 3 level services from a community agency that no longer exists, right? There's still that student need within our buildings, and we're able to analyze and say, hey, where are we lacking, and then identify, well, this resource is missing, and then have thoughtful conversations about how to fill that gap. In terms of anti-bias, anti-racism, and equity, right? It's ensuring that all students have access to that high-quality tier 1 instruction. It's critical. In terms of early grades literacy and proficiency, it's analyzing data and making sure that we're choosing the best curriculums that help to demonstrate student growth to the best of their ability, that our tier 2 strategies and tier 3 resources are aligned to where some of the gaps are in student-specific learning. Our professional learning communities that folks are going to talk about later on, right? That's where all the professional level conversations that teachers are having that are aligned to these MTSS systems. And that provides the structure for that conversation to happen at the professional level. And then that coordinated and aligned curriculum, the MTSS system is what helps us to kind of gauge, are we going in the correct direction? And is it working? Are we seeing student growth? Then within all of that, the expenditures, you'll see that most of it is around the professional learning opportunity. I mean, that requires a significant amount of training, right? Wrapping our minds around collectively and aligning our current systems, so we're not just throwing out the stuff we have, so that our systems function and consider those multi-tiered aspects and how to best support kiddos. So that's the gist of it.
So really, MTSS encompasses everything that you're going to hear tonight. It's about teachers, interventionists, classroom teachers, nurses, counselors working together as teams to support students, meeting students' needs where they are. It's to give students what they need at a time that they need it. It's about closing the opportunity gap to allow students to access learning at whatever level. And everything that we're doing at the moment, MTSS-wise, is data-driven. We're getting the evidence through this, whether it's through attendance data, whether it's through nurse data, whether it's through academic data. All these flags are things that are signaling us to start putting in interventions to support students. So everything we do needs to be data-driven, and that drives our MTSS systems to go into place, and then we address student need to give them the skills that they may be missing to access their learning. Jeremy, is there anything else? I feel like, Robin, to your Batman, you were very comprehensive. Is there any questions for anyone?
There's probably going to be a theme tonight, but what if we don't have our interventionists? What if we need to cut those? What if we aren't investing in our instructional coaches, in screeners, new screeners, and research-based interventions? What does that mean for students? How would that influence our system?
So there's the need, and the need is going to be, we as professionals, whether it's administrators or teachers, are going to address the need, but you're going to see gaps in the system because without those people and without those skill sets, we're going to miss something. And however much there's there's so much capacity in the system. We have some very skilled individuals across the district. If you start losing those people, students and the community are going to I see the effects of it in students learning, because you're going to have skill deficits and you're going to have social emotional deficits that aren't being met. And that's going to put gaps or put up barriers to learning.
Yeah, and I think to say that very bluntly, and last year you were the blunt one, Tarek. This year, I'll feel free to. It'll just be inequities, right? Families who can afford coaches and can afford private tutors will gain access to those, and families that can't afford won't have access, and our school won't provide won't have the resources to close those opportunity gaps. So we would just get a system of increased inequities.
Great, thank you. Anybody have questions? Okay. Mike, is here. You want to come join us at the table?
Sure.
Great.
Okay, with the next day, Gracie?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure I don't break.
How's Abby? Abby.
Hi, I'm Mike West from high school. It's great to be here. I am presenting about the anti-bias, anti-racism, and equity efforts here in the district. There's three big initiatives that we're driving forward. One is the training of staff, all staff in the building. And training is twofold, right? Training is helping people look at their own self, looking at their biases and trying to come to an understanding of where they're coming from and how that affects what they're doing. There's also training that goes into how do I create an equitable and inclusive setting. And this is all being led by our equity coaches. We have two positions, three people spread out through the district who work with the administration. And there's, I want to use some vernacular, ABAR, anti-bias, anti-racism committees at all schools that sort of work to plan these trainings. So that's the first part. The second part is looking at our curriculum. So where in our curriculum are we taking active steps to be anti-bias and anti-racist and to be inclusive? How are we doing that? Are we teaching the right topics? Are we teaching the right topics the right way? Are we considering all people? Are we considering all authors? So that is, that work, those questions are, I was just in a meeting today and watching an equity coach ask these questions as we were discussing transferable skills and PBGRs, and it was such a great question because it made us all pause, step back and think and say, okay, we got to make sure we're addressing this. So these folks and the conversations they're pushing teachers to have, because the teachers are curriculum experts, is outstanding. And then the third piece is we need to prepare our students to go forth and to be successful in a more diverse world, certainly more diverse world than they're probably living in right now. And to do that means we need to work with the students. We need to listen to them. We need to talk with them. We need to create environments that they're comfortable in, and that they're learning these skills, and that sometimes they're helping us learn. So those are the three big, silos I see in this area. I don't even want to think about not working on this work. The coaches are funded through ESSER money, and we have it we're in the process of picking up that cost within our budget. And I was recently at a meeting with equity coaches throughout the state, and a lot of districts are looking at cutting these positions. And I don't think that is something that we can stomach. I don't think it's going to lead us to effective, engaged citizens. I don't think it's going to lead our graduates to be prepared for the world we need to be in. So, that's our sort of ABAR and equity work in a short little nutshell there. This work is spread out through all the schools. We're all doing it, and one of the things we realized is our schools are all in a little bit different places. So the training's all a little bit different, but the goalposts are way out there, and they're the same goalposts, and we're moving towards them.
Questions for Mike? Okay. Thank you. Yeah. All right, Sally and Jen, I think you have the next topic.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Cote. I'm the principal of Underhill Central School.
I think she just did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Sally Hayes, the principal at Brewster Pierce in Huntington, and Jen and I are presenting the priority of early literacy proficiency.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to start. So by grade 3, the expectation is that students will have developed automaticity in decoding and word recognition, and will have learned and had sufficient practice using foundational phonics skills to be able to independently read stories and short informational text with enough understanding to be able to recount stories and ask and answer who, what, when, where, and how questions to demonstrate their understanding of details from the text. Our approaches in literacy are based on universal design for learning, and we use the MTSS system to support all learners, including students who might be at risk. Last year, our district formed a literacy task force to evaluate our literacy curriculum and assessment plan and ensure it reflected research-based practices. Together with the district's literacy curriculum committee, we made the decision to replace our curriculum with a structured literacy approach. Structured literacy practice include explicit, sequential, systematic, and cumulative instruction. With structured literacy, students are taught decoding strategies that lead to automaticity and comprehension reading. We are all in using structured literacy and research-based approaches and programs that include using a screener called STAR 360 to plan for instruction, kindergarten through 8th grade. We purchased Haggerty, which is a daily phonics and phonemic awareness program used in kindergarten through 2nd grade. We're increasing our decodable text libraries in every school. And we also purchased an explicit and systematic phonics program called UFly from the University of Florida Literacy Institute.
So we are at the early stages of a lot of changes and just some structures in our new literacy plan, especially in the pre-K to, I would say, 4 grades. And the priorities, one of the biggest priorities is maintaining our instructional coaches that we have. The coaches are instrumental in securing really high quality tier 1 instruction, and that is the most important thing. And the biggest foundation is really providing that tier 1 instruction. The coaches help support that and make that happen. So that's a true priority as we move forward. Professional development, right now there's a lot of new resources and changes that are happening. We want to maintain that in the budget so that we can provide that professional development for all the teachers so that they can maintain the skills and learn and acquire the new skills that they need to navigate this very complex landscape that's changing for literacy instruction. We also are hoping to keep the interventions, and we actually, some of our tier 1 instructional resources can be used for tier 2. So just keeping, providing coordinated intervention programs and services is also a priority for early literacy. And then keeping the staffing, and I think just supporting the most struggling learners early. So early intervention and providing that early impact of some of our interventionists is critical and also a priority. Jen. Do you want me to continue on, Jen?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Really, obviously, everybody knows the importance of literacy. Is the research shows that if we don't focus on proficiency by grade 3, then students might be at risk for not completing high school. So it's really critical. This is a really important priority. And also we know that without really strong literacy skills, students are at risk for not being able to access all the other academic areas as they're going through their educational career. So it's really critical to have that strong foundation.
If we aren't able to, this again, sorry to repeat that, or we talked about this in our meeting, but what if we have to cut interventionists and we have to scale back on our resources and we're not offering the professional development? What would that look like? What would that mean?
Right now, we are in a state of change and flux, and I feel like the interventionists and the coaches are such an important component part of our structure that I feel like it would be less stable and it would be less strong. And especially right now, like I was saying, from grade H3 really up to 4th grade, where we've been really focusing on some of these changes, we want to be as strong as possible. So I can't imagine that. I think we'd have to go back and really think long and hard how we would provide what we're providing in such a strong way. Jen, do you want to offer anything else?
I would just add, as we are, reflecting on and revising our new curriculum and assessment plan, it's a real opportunity for us to strengthen our system and to strengthen students' literacy skills. And if we didn't have the supports in place, I worry about students not getting what they need. Literacy is the foundation to everything, and students wouldn't have access to other content areas. And I just worry about their social emotional well-being as well.
Can I ask, I'm not seeing other hands go up, is because we've changed, right, the way that we're providing early literacy, because what we were doing before wasn't working well, right? So in the long run, is this going to be a money saver because we have to do less remediation as the students get older?
That's the hope. That's the plan. So you're right. So if we have more, so you're saying if we have more tier 3 interventions now, if we give a stronger foundation with phonemic awareness, phonological awareness, the hope is as each year goes by, there'll be less. So the scales will tip this way, and there'll be fewer with that strong tier 1 instruction.
Thanks, Diane.
Thanks. I had two kinds of questions. One of them may have been answered in our last meeting that I may have missed part of it. I'm assuming that the switch to the new literacy program is data driven. And so we have data that we were not succeeding as well as we wanted to, and that this other type of program was producing better results in other locations. That's the first part of my question.
So I can answer part of that, and Jen, you can tag team, and John too. So we haven't completely, so the pendulum kind of swings. We haven't completely abandoned everything that we had been doing, but what we're doing is inserting what we know works really well for all children, ages 3 to, in the pre-K, K1, 2 years, which is really strong foundation in phonemic awareness and phonics and phonological awareness. So that is being dovetailed with some of the other programmatic, things that we've had in place for years, which are the upper grades, comprehension, a rich classroom library, giving children access to read. We're still going to be doing that, but we're really focusing on that foundation. Does that answer your question, Dan?
Yeah. Somewhat, that's the answer that I thought I heard last time too. So
Okay.
I just wasn't sure about the data part, but I'm gonna leave that
Oh.
aside.
Yeah,
Yes.
The other point I wanted to just echo, which is one that you've made, is that some of the behavioral and emotional struggles of our teens are due to feeling inadequate and struggling with academics that gets kind of glossed over year after year. And certainly once they get into the middle and high schools, there's a reluctance to learn, to catch up. So I echo the fact that it is critical that we get our competency level up on reading, because the joy and the happiness that kids have when they are competent and effective at something, it just spills over to the rest of their lives and their interest in academics. So definitely support that part.
well, I just would add that the changes we made were data driven. We
Yeah,
had, anywhere from sometimes to 40 to 20% of students specifically around phonemic awareness and proficiency that weren't meeting, state level and national standards. And so we knew we had to make some changes. And that was really the genesis and the impetus for that literacy task force. And they were, I would say, I greatly appreciate the work that they did, because it was very focused on what is a researched and evidence-based program that we could use that would help these anywhere from 40 to 20% of students that aren't making it.
Okay, thank you.
Edie, I have a quick question. And it sort of ties into what Diane was saying. Thanks so much for all of this work and reporting on the literacy. It's super important to me in particular, but something that I know, it's been in the news, Vermont is really have the literacy debate in Vermont is having a moment right now. And something that I had read piqued my interest, and it is leading me to wonder what we're doing to support the students who are in middle and high school now, who may have fallen through the cracks in the sense that we were using different approaches to deliver literacy. And so they may be treading water, so to speak, but may not have a full understanding or comprehension of reading. So
That's a really great question. And I feel like to this point right now, the interventionists really and the coaching support for those teachers to provide some of that is going to be essential. It's going to be really critical in the next several years until, exactly like you were saying, until we can I don't want to use this rewrite the ship and get it to back where we have that really strong foundation and fewer kids that really need that tier 3.
But is there something we're doing right now? Like, is there any kind of intervention group or?
Yeah, I was just talking to Kevin, and Rebecca, she'll probably answer it, but.
Go ahead, Rebecca. We'll let you answer.
Yeah, I could just add a little bit to that question. So I was in some conversations just today around kind of two things that come to mind. One is that we have a few folks that are getting trained in the Orton-Gillingham approach to teaching students, and having that additional training by some of our staff is going to help fill in some of the gaps that some of our kids have. And another thing that we're really looking at doing, especially with our special ed team, is kind of improving our building based in local assessments to include more assessments of those foundational skills and those phonics skills and those word decoding and syllabication skills that kids may be lacking, and really planning instruction based on, just an improved robustness of those assessments that we're doing at the local level. So those are just kind of two examples of things that just kind of came up in some conversations today that we're really aiming to do with some of our kids that need a little bit more.
Thanks, Jen. You have something you want to add?
I just wanted to add too that, we're strengthening our professional learning communities, which I'll speak about next for our priority. But that's when, teams come together and they look at the data and they respond to student needs. So they look at the data and they think about instructional practices for all learners at tier 1. So what does that core instruction look like? And then they look at data to see, well, who may not have gotten that tier 1, that core instruction the first time around, and they respond with targeted supports. And then they consider students who might be missing some essential skills. And so those students would receive intensive intervention. And so that's really where our MTSS model and our PLCs impact our instruction and learning and how we respond to students.
Gretchen?
I just wanted to share, Jen, I'm glad you said professional learning communities because that's what I was thinking about. And the other piece of that, and I can speak for at least Camel's Hump, I can't remember who just asked the question about what's happening in the middle level and high school, but our literacy interventionist and math interventionist attend these professional learning communities. So these meetings among content area teachers to look at the data with them and help identify students that do need that more targeted intervention or in different areas of literacy and math. So we do have those supports in place. Without that, it would be really hard to provide those additional intensive intervention needs that students would need that have been identified from the data that we're looking at.
Diane?
Yeah, I just want to echo again, I don't think I can emphasize enough based on just, my experience from where I sit and working, that middle school, those kids who have missed out and who really need those reading interventions, I think we could save ourselves a lot of heartache with a lot of emotional and behavioral dysregulation if we can make sure that we're really reaching and ensuring that they feel academically competent. And and the lack of reading, may be one of those things that's adding to it. So I just don't want to lose track of like what Katie was mentioning, the interventions and making sure that they go up high enough to remediate. Thanks.
Jen, I know you already touched on the professional learning communities. Is there something else you want to add? Because I think that if it's covered, you don't have to say it twice.
I can add for sure. Sorry, it's bedtime in my house. I had to say goodnight to my daughter. Just make an appearance via hugs. So in professional learning communities, we ensure that all students are learning, and it's a way to create a culture of collaboration among staff where we focus on results. So during PLCs, grade level teams meet once a week and discuss data and plan for instruction. During these meetings, we ask specific analysis questions. What do we expect our students to learn? How will we know they learned it? What will they do if they don't learn it? And what will we do when they do learn it? So those intervention and extension opportunities. We incorporate concepts of universal design for learning when planning for next steps in instruction, and we create additional data collection opportunities through formative assessments. This is important for students learning because it allows space for ongoing conversations about student data and ways to collect more information about student learning. It provides effective core instruction, targeted instruction, intensive intervention or extension opportunities. And PLCs provide a more level playing field. They create a more equitable learning experience for all students. Our current investments of professional learning are sufficient in providing professional learning and facilitation or data analysis. And we do this with our coaching cycles. We utilize our early release time to look at data. And our guiding coalitions are strengthening their understanding of PLCs and bringing that back to the PLC teams. A high level of collaboration through PLCs can significantly improve student learning. Professional learning communities ensure all students are provided with a school experience that includes rigorous and challenging programming that will address any learning curves that may be faced. The PLC process will guide educators to provide our very best to all students, which can increase graduation rates and support engaged citizens. Thank you.
Anyone have a question? Chairs. Kevin.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Great.
I'm Kevin Hamilton, principal at Browns River Middle School. And I'm here tonight to present on the strategic priority around PK through 12, pre-K through 12 coordinated and aligned curriculum. I am lucky enough to be one of the senior members of the administrative staff now. I've been here for 15 years. So I've got a long look at this work over the 15 years, and to see the amount of work that's gone into this over the 15 years and see how much more aligned we are now as a school district as compared to we were 15 years ago is quite amazing. You know, I think I put about this in pre-COVID and COVID and then post-COVID. During that COVID period was a time where we came together quite a bit as a district in terms of aligning our curriculum. It was pretty amazing to see the work that was done with our teachers across district. I'm talking from a middle school level, but I also know it was done very much at a elementary school level. That teachers came together. They worked closely on curriculum. First, it was virtually, obviously, during that time period, but then we've continued that coming out of COVID. A lot of times, you know, we get new staff members into our building and they're pretty amazed at our curriculum, how well aligned it is, how organized it is, and how clearly defined it is for them as they come in as new teachers from other districts. So we're really lucky to have that. I'm really fortunate. It directly impacts our global end statement of graduating lifelong learners and effective and engaged citizens. So it's really important in terms of that work that we do, that guiding mission for us as a school district. The budget implications around this go directly to our coaches. I'm going to save John the time in terms of asking that question of what the impact, but our coaches, we have 7 academic coaches in the K through 8 level, varying levels of full-time employment. Some are half-time, some are full-time within that area. They work very closely with our teachers, and they work very closely with the administrators in the district. They are in the classrooms in all of the schools. They see what's going on in all of the schools and are able to help us collaborate together, plan together, and make sure that we're all on the same page. So the importance of those 7 people, and then at the high school level, I believe they're called curriculum coordinators at the level like coaches. So these people are super important to the work that we do in terms of this coordinated work, both horizontally across grade levels and then vertically as we move through the system here. It really is impressive to see all the work that they do. I know our coaches go up to the high school and meet with high school teachers and the curriculum coordinators up there to make sure that we're doing the work that we need to do in the middle school, and then vice versa. They work with the elementary schools. They meet regularly throughout the school year as well as a group. So they're doing a lot of work, and then they're sharing that information, working in our classrooms. They're embedded in the classrooms and doing a lot of work with our teachers. So that work is extremely important. So going back to John's question, you know, what would happen if we didn't have that? We would lose a lot. I think that fell on principals in the past in terms of trying to coordinate that stuff. Our time is spread out quite a bit with a lot of different other things that are going on, and these people are super key to making sure that we are moving forward as a district. And I think, you know, going back to what people are talking about, you know, I always talk to my 5th grade teachers about the work that you put in at 5th grade may not pay off to 8th grade. The work that you do with children, you know, it's the same with that elementary school. All that work along the way, you know, you look at how successful Mount Mansfield Union High School is, and in terms of where it is as a school in the state of Vermont, that goes through the whole system here, and that has directly implications on how aligned it is for our students and the equity that it provides for our students. If a kid is to move from, say, Smiley School to GES, there's a very similar experience going on there. You know, if we have kids that go sometimes from Camel's Hump to Browns River or vice versa, you know, there's a similar experience as they go in, and they're really prepared to go into Mount Mansfield Union High School. So these coaches really drive that engine. They really help us with that work. So the priority on that is huge. And the people that we have in those positions are very key to the work that we do. The other part of this is time. I want to talk about the early release days that we have. I stress back to this, that is critical to the work that we do across the district. So it gives us a common time across the district for our teachers to be able to meet, which is not easy to do, from Camel's Hump to Browns River. This extra time is hugely important. There's also time that we build into the summer months in terms of giving people per diem work to really work on the curriculum, focus on things that need to be done. I'm going to go to the social studies work that we need to do for many years. It kind of got put off for a while. COVID came, and it just trying to look at our curriculum. It was a very Eurocentric curriculum. It needed a lot of updating. And there's been a lot of work that's done with Jane Mickelson, one of our coaches, that has really updated our curriculum and really aligned us across those areas. And it's in a much better spot. Still needs work to be done, but it's much better than it had been, 5 years ago. So that work, again, with Jane Mickelson, one of our coaches, is super critical. And that time to be able to do that, finding that time. I want to make sure that, that those early release days are recognized as that we are doing the work across the district. Teachers are working really hard. And even in the summer, working really hard on the curriculum and just doing a lot of the heavy lifting around making sure that we're aligned and we're coordinated. And then also communicating it out to our families, the websites that we have that are linked onto the main MMUSD website. A lot of our teachers go in, we do that work and try to update those things as we go along. So parents and families are involved in that part as well. So there's that piece too, in terms of coordinating with our families, so they're aware of what we're doing curriculum wise as well. So just really pointing out that, again, those priorities around those coaches are very high. And if that were to go away, because sometimes those are the things that are the easy things, not the easy things, but the first things to kind of go when there's budget challenges, would have a huge impact on the outcome, our global ends outcome as we move forward as a school. So, questions?
Any questions on anything that we covered? This is the last area, so I just want to give, before I let all of our guest speakers go for the night, I want to make sure that board members, students have an opportunity to ask on anything if something popped up.
In respect to the curriculum, are the curriculum coaches in the high school paying attention or keeping their finger on the pulse in college to ensure like the curriculum is getting the students college ready, knowing?
Defer.
Because
as near as we can, right? It's a bit of a tough ask, but I'm going to use, it's not the best data, but every time I see a returning student, once we get beyond September, the first question I ask them after, hey, how's it going, is what could we have done different or better? This year I probably asked 20 students that. I've yet to be told one thing. Actually, one student said you can have due dates. You can enforce due dates.
you don't say.
So I think we're doing, yes, we are in touch with colleges. We're in touch with the best, we try to keep up on the research for learning. And another group of people that really helps us with this is our old school name would be guidance counselors,
Sure.
or school counselors. We have a lot of folks come in from colleges that do visits. One of the things we do before we let them leave is one counselor is going to sit down and interview them. And we have a standard group of questions we ask about what do you want students to have? What are the skills they need?
One of your guidance counselors interviews the admissions person
Yeah.
from the college? Okay, so it's not the student who's.
No,
Okay.
well, that happens. The admission person comes in, meets with kids. But before that admission person leave, one of our counselors has a 5-minute conversation with them about what kind of student you're looking for, what kind of skills are you looking for, what are problems you all are seeing with students there. So, we try our best to get that data as best we can.
Kevin.
Thanks, Edie. Yep. Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for preparing for this meeting and presenting your thoughts. Every year since we started doing this, I think we've seen, or I've seen anyway, kind of a progression of getting more and more aligned. And I think it was just last 1 or 2 years where we have co-presenters, which really helps to demonstrate that we really have a kind of a unified approach. So I know, Susan, you're hearing this after taking a little break. Maybe you've seen a bigger step change, but it's been incremental. And the theme that I'm hearing is the resources that we are able to bring on board with the ESSER funds, which we knew were, one-time funds are must-have, critical. Can't do anything without them. And I think everyone's saying the same thing. This year, the budget has a lot of uncertainty in it. We say that every year, but I think this year is something special, and next year. And so I think everyone who was presenting tonight also needs to think about as we go through the cycle, what are some of the services that we could defer, not indefinitely, but for some period of time, and what would that impact be? I know we do everything for a reason, but some things may not be as impactful as some of the things we talked about tonight. And those may need to come back around as we get further into the budget cycle, depending on how it goes. So thanks again.
To piggyback on that, like how many positions are we talking about that we would have to fund once the ESSER funds are gone?
I don't have an exact FTE. I'm right off my top of my head, but we
Is that a
have
plug to come to the next finance committee meeting?
It's not a lot. It's probably equal to like three FTEs. Yeah, and some of those are support staff. So, but again, we didn't have a lot of money. So,
Right.
The big one I think is going to be what part of one of the coaches' salaries, about half of it, we need to fund, and some summer school programming that we funded with ESSER. So.
Things I'm sure you're thinking about them, so.
Yeah. All right, any questions, comments? So I will echo what Kevin said. Thank you all. Really appreciate this holistic presentation. It's incredibly helpful for us as a board as we do all the work during the year to have this perspective, and especially this year for the budget. So appreciate it. You are welcome to stay. You do not have to stay. We will not hold it against you when you leave. I'm expecting all of you to go. So thank you so much for being here tonight, and I look forward to seeing you at your places of work. Sally already got that out of the way. So. The rest of you get to host us at some point. So thank you so much.
Before we move on, do we have our new folks introduce themselves because they weren't a part of the roll call?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, just because I feel like you're sitting there and I'm staring at you. I know you're Abby and I know you're Gracie, but I don't really know.
Oh, yeah. So at the last meeting, you weren't able to be there. They did do an introduction at the last meeting. Sorry.
Wasn't
I guess I can start. There's only two of us, so not that hard. I'm Gracie Batesy. I use she, they pronouns. I am a senior at MMU. Yeah, anything else you want to know?
No, I'll find you after, now that I'm learning. Like,
I'm
the one who missed the introductionary.
No. Ask away.
Yeah, and I'm Abby O'Malley. I'm in 11th grade. I use she, her pronouns. And
Good to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
I'm Tara Arneson. I also use she, her pronouns. I live here in Richmond. I have a 10 and a 12-year-old that attend Campbell's High.
I'm from Jericho.
oh yeah, I'm from Bolton.
Thank you, thank you.
Sure. Let's do that. All right, agenda item, the next one is to approve the student drug and alcohol policy. So if I could first get a motion and a second to put that one on the agenda or on the docket here.
So move.
Second. Thank you. So I believe we first heard the policy the end of last school year in June. We did some back and forths with the folks from all Together Now, thank you, project, and then some lawyers in our district or for our district, and came up with the final wording as it stands on the link. The bullet points are the changes. So we included the proposed language regarding medication exceptions. The term abuse is in legal statute, and we cannot change it according to current use of in treatment right now. And because we have to be legally compliant with our policy. And then the we adjusted the administrative responsibilities in the policy. Yes. Any other discussion, questions on the policy as it is written?
Just to nitpick it, sorry. It says at the bottom, date warned May 8th. Was that with all the changes or the first time?
The first time.
So is the date that this version was warned the date that our meeting warning went out for today?
For last week. It was on the previous agenda and we tabled it for this one. So it has been out in this format for public viewing as of, I don't know, October 5th or so.
So can we make that the date?
Well, it has to be officially warned at a meeting, which is when it was warned, and then after it's warned, you can, you have discussion, you can make modifications. So this is the format for as it's required.
Okay. All right. I guess I'm good with that. Thanks.
Okay. Fair questions. Other comments, questions? All in favor of approving the student drugs and alcohol policy, thumb or an eye, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. We are now warning the participation of home study students policy and the travel reimbursement policy. You don't need a motion, correct, to warn them? But we have an opportunity now to have discussion on either of those two policies or both of them. Anyone has questions, comments? Yes, Diane.
Has John already gone over with us what's changed and why they needed to be adopted now, kind of thing? Just a quick overview.
I can. Yep. So these are required policies that have had some updates to them. And so we've shared with you, we're going through all the required policies and bringing them back. So we have the most up-to-date policies for the district that we can. And for home study students in the agenda, you'll see that they updated the definition for home study students and what school facilities are, and the new reference to the law that has been changed a bit, which is 16 VSA section 563.24. So not a ton of changes, but some updates to the definitions. And then the travel reimbursement policy, they just updated the administrative responsibilities.
Okay, and there's no other impacts that we need to be aware of based on?
No, those are the changes.
Okay, thanks.
Other comments or questions? Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, for John, on the policy for travel reimbursement, do we require like travel to be approved in advance before it can be reimbursed, or is it okay to submit it
Yeah.
after the fact?
Well, mileage, no, like if you're traveling from one school to another, because that's just part of your job, but any sort of travel has to be approved by the administrator and myself and the director of finance.
Where does that get stated? Is it, if it's not in the policy, is it in the procedure?
I think that is in our, I think it's in our handbook. But it's not in this policy.
Something maybe to consider?
Sure.
You know, for like the, maybe not mileage, but airfare and lodging would not be reimbursed if not approved in advance of, you know, that kind of thing.
And just, it says that the procedures will include what would be, oh, so you're saying, yeah. I guess you'd have to read the procedure to understand how well it's covered, right? Or that you need approval first.
Yeah, I mean, it's never happened. I guess we wouldn't pay for it, but
okay.
I'd probably doesn't hurt.
Check into that for us.
Sure.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Okay. Moving on to, so we will approve this at our next meeting. So if folks have questions, comments, you can reach out to John in between the meeting as well. But the plan is to have it on our agenda for the next one. VSBA resolutions, I'm hoping that everyone had an opportunity to take a look at them. Diane, do you want to take this? Do you want me to do this? What do you think? You can see we planned this in advance.
Yeah, we didn't really plan it in advance, so it's fine, Edie, if you want to start on it.
Okay, I'll do the overview and I'll expect you to jump in whenever clarification is necessary. How's that?
Sounds good.
Okay. So every year, the VSBA, the Vermont School Board Association, asks for resolutions. We talked about that, I think, at the end of last year. What do school boards want them to focus on in the next year? They have ongoing resolutions, they have temporary resolutions, there are lots of different ways. We have in the past submitted some, we did not submit any to this group. They also have a resolutions committee that prepares resolutions based on what they hear is important in what's happening in schools statewide and the kinds of things that the VSBA should be lobbying for. And then they have the board, which is a different group, vote on whether they think the resolutions should be approved or not. Ultimately, it is the full membership of the VSBA at the annual meeting that decides if these resolutions get adopted or not. So what we're doing today in the board meeting is deciding on what our one vote for our school district should be and how we support these resolutions. And there are 9 of them. And I'm assuming everyone has the link that you can see that some of them do not pass.
Gus, your parental units are here to bring you home. Please report to the health room.
I did too, sorry.
I was like, this, something just happened.
We've had.
It's never happened before. I'm still a little, okay.
How has that never happened?
Right? One would think at 7:45, there's no school activities happening, but you know. Okay, so, so this year, I think it's unusual to have the resolution committee have a different perspective than the VSBA overall board, because that happened in a couple of different policies. I would be happy to review all of them, or just mention the name. I can read the name and we can talk about what that means, perhaps, if folks want to get into it more deeply. The first one came from the Missisquoi Valley School Board, and they want to eliminate the requirement of federal grant assessment for Vermont school districts. And this is in regards to paying for retirement, is that right?
Yeah, there's an assessment that we pay.
For the state teachers' retirement system.
Yep, that you gotta add on to the, it's an assessment come.
Is that really 20%?
So wait, Kevin, one sec, Heather's starting over here, she has procedural, and then we'll.
So if we get one vote, so if the committee said do not pass and the board said do not pass, we wouldn't want to vote on one because like if they aren't willing to pass it. So ideally we want to vote on something that they both pass, right? Or no?
So this is their recommendation.
Okay.
Every single one is gonna go in front of the full attendance. And so the full attendance can choose to take these recommendations or not.
Regardless of what?
Regardless of their recommendation. And when they did their webinar, it turned out that there were a couple that the committee didn't have a deep understanding of and said do not pass because they didn't have a deep understanding of it. And when they heard more information, they thought, oh, that's not what we thought it was.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's good. Kevin.
Yeah, sorry, I might have jumped ahead, Edie. How do you want to go through these?
I figured we'd go one by one and see what the board wanted to do, how we wanted to vote on them.
Yeah, so I don't know what others, just in the interest of time, it maybe, we can set a baseline and pick out any that don't fit, or we can take time to review each one. But I've reviewed them, and between the committee and the board recommendations, like I would be okay with the board recommendations in general. And at least from my perspective, there wouldn't be anyone that I'd want to pull out separately to discuss.
Okay, Diane?
I just wanted to add another point in that regardless of what way we decide we want to support or go along with any of the current recommendations of each of these resolutions, there may be a lot of information that comes to light that may change our opinion at the time of the meeting. And so being flexible enough to, we're investing our one vote with Edie, but there'll be a team of us there to understand that the opinions may change. And we may get information that may want us to go in one direction or another that we hadn't even thought of. Just want to be mindful of that. I'm not sure how useful it is to really say we support or don't support each one of these. I think it's really important to maybe ask the questions and just have a general sense of what the board wishes going into the meeting. Kevin, what were you thinking exactly? I didn't quite understand where you wanted to go with it.
Oh, yeah, kind of in the interest of time, right? If folks had any exceptions to what the VSBA board was recommending, then to allow board members to voice them. And then as our representative, you would take that feedback and represent the board at the meeting. Or, if folks hadn't had a chance to review them and we want to walk through each one individually and kick it around a little bit, I can do that as well. But I'm okay just kind of putting a fast forward button on this one and only talking to them by exception in this meeting.
So Kevin's recommendation is that not the committee vote, but the board vote, so you can see the take action, do not take action, is what he feels most closely fits his reading of the resolutions. And if we want to talk about a different feeling from any of those. So the board said, do not pass 1, 2, 3, and 4. And either pass or pass 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So if anyone feels the opposite of any of those, we can talk about that perhaps. It's one way to do this in a little more.
Can you remind us what happens with the resolutions
So
after the meeting?
So yeah, so the resolutions are what the VSBA uses on what they lobby for or against for the rest of the year.
So what are the chances, like half of these won't even come up?
Well, they will,
Like in a lobbying session, right? Like,
well, they will talk to legislators about getting bills for these things and see if they can get them introduced. And if the bill does get introduced, then they will lobby to see if they can get it.
Are there any examples of ones that they've successfully had legislation after?
Act 127.
That started with a resolution?
The support of it came out through resolution, yeah. Yeah.
There are,
Yes, Kevin.
yeah, also, the last thing for me, I guess, there are like a lot of resolutions, that have been approved in the past. And I thought it's great that the committee put forward some amendments to existing resolutions, which means somebody's looking at what's already been out there. But there's so many that I find these to be just more, directional and aspirational, and a chance for the school boards to kind of agree that this is a priority amongst anything that's not a resolution. But it would be so much more effective if there was a chance for the boards to say, these are our top 5. And then, our limited resources in the VSBA could focus on those. But to focus on, I don't know how many there are, 30 or 50 or whatever, it doesn't really do much as far as give folks, where's the priority.
I certainly agree with Kevin's words, directional and aspirational. And I think we should just kind of remember that that's really the crux of the situation.
All right, does anybody have a resolution that they want to talk about further? Or do you want to just leave it to those of us in the room on the day of to use our best judgment?
There just is one that wasn't on this list that we heard of, that was actually in the webinar from Norwich. Oh no, the Norwich
It's in
one.
there.
Right. The Norwich one got more information, and that one, quite frankly, intrigues me a lot. But that was in the webinar, and so I'm anxious to see how that's going to play out in real time.
Yep, so what Norwich is asking is that the non-residential tax rate is equal to the homestead tax rate, because 34% of the towns in Vermont, their non-residential tax rate is lower than their residential, their homestead tax rate. And what they're seeing in those towns is an increase in non-residential taxable units. And so less money is going to the education fund because of that. And the non-residential means second home or business basically right now. And a home is generally not being turned into a business. So what we're finding is folks moving to, or buying a second home in Vermont, it's pretty, it's much more taxably affordable for them than it is for people who live here permanently. Yeah. So that was not understood by the board or the committee when they said do not pass or take no action.
Correct, because that, the information that was provided, makes a pretty compelling argument to, again, take a look at our funding formula, which we've, tried to do in piecemeal for years. So as long as people are okay with the concept of if we follow, the general trend of the VSBA suggestion and put our board stamp on it, that we may change our minds at the meeting based on information, I think that's, that just gives a general trend that everyone here at least has been able to ask any questions they wanted to before we send our voting member.
And then do those of us that are present at the meeting get do we get to powwow with each other before we vote? There'll be time for districts to discuss?
Yeah,
Then you wanna ask if you
we'll want
trust
to
who's
sit
going.
together and.
Yeah.
Right?
Pardon?
Does Kevin trust who's going to the meeting?
Yes, Kevin.
Of course I do, as long as I'm there. No, I'm sorry, I said it was the last thing, but then Diane brought one up that I thought was also intriguing. I know when, there was discussion a long time ago about that non-homestead rate. And I thought about it a little bit, and I don't know if that's where we want VSBA to put its time around, the funding formula. I mean, there's so many people and so much focus on that already. To bring up one more issue seemed like we could have the VSBA work in other areas. So I wasn't totally against that concept. I just thought, is that really the fight we want to have? And when I think about that non-homestead rate, I do kind of feel like it should be consistent throughout the state. I feel like if you had a different non-homestead rate in different towns, then you would affect where businesses and second homes are going. And maybe now some towns would want theirs to be lower, subsidized by, and then you start to have that fluctuation. So that's why I kind of, in my mind, I was like, yeah, I think we don't need that one to pass.
So Kevin, are you okay with what Edie was proposing?
Yeah.
Which was basically to have us vote to agree with the VSBA recommendations as a board. And she had it just sort of outlined by the numbers, which ones we were in favor of, walking into the meeting, knowing that there may be some really compelling information that will, arise. Okay. So do we need to turn that into a motion, Edie?
Nope.
Okay.
We do not.
Great. Then that's
All right.
perfect.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that. If you have further thoughts, happy to hear them. We will do our best to represent the district on Thursday I think it's Thursday is the meeting, pretty sure. Next agenda item, approve meeting minutes from 10/10/23. Can I get a motion and a second for that?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor of approving the minutes, a thumb or an eye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Tara? Thank you. Committee reports.
I think Allison just abstained as well.
Thank you. 2 abstentions. Thank you. Finance and facilities, anything?
Nothing new. Next meeting is November 9th.
And
at 6
the,
o'clock.
and the community meeting is the following, the 16th. Yeah. Great.
Can you amend those minutes because I was not present and they say I was?
Oh. We're there in spirit.
Not really.
We haven't, have we approved them? Yeah, no, I don't
We
know if we
haven't
did.
approved them
No,
yet.
we haven't.
Yeah.
So we can do that, yep.
Okay.
Probably do it right now.
Community engagement.
We met this morning and we worked to create a front porch forum post / Facebook post, social media post to spread the word to our communities about the upcoming budget presentation on November 16th at 6 o'clock here at the library at Campbelltown Middle School. So we'd like everybody to have that on their calendar and the board make a effort to try to attend that meeting in support of the budget and the conversation that will be had about Act 127 and the impact that it's going to have on the budget and our school district and the residents of our school district for the upcoming years. So we pulled together that blurb and we're waiting for a couple of pieces, but we should be able to start distributing that by the end of the week with a hope that that's posted once a week until the meeting. So that's about 4 updates. And
Do you need volunteers from each
yes,
town?
that's next on, yes. I was getting to the bottom of my minute. And then we need a volunteer representative from each town to disperse this message. So to post it, and we also need everybody to reach out to their community personally and invite people to this meeting so that we can hopefully get a really great public presence. The meeting minutes are posted on the website, so if anybody's looking for more information there, they can read them. And we also talked about making sure that the link on the postcard says in order to attend virtually, to visit the homepage of our district. So just making sure that that is prominently displayed when the meeting is, when the link goes live for people to be able to find that easily. And probably it'd be great if it was on all of our school front pages, just because I think many parents don't always know that there's a district website. They go to RES or Campbelltown looking for things. So just trying to be consistent in the way that we get that word out. And plus there'll be a postcard coming out 2 weeks prior to that meeting. So
Yeah, we can do that.
yeah,
Put it right on the front for everybody.
okay, great. I think that's everything.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Tara, anything?
How quickly do meeting minutes need to be returned?
Should
For
be
committees.
5 days.
Oh, I
5
think it's
days.
3, is it?
I thought it was 3.
Oh, 5, but could be.
I'd have to pull the law out. I'd have to pull the law, but you can give an overview.
Okay. I need to start asking somebody to take those because I'm pretty horrible at being a scribe. Or at least giving them back in a very timely fashion. So the DEIB committee met Friday morning and we spent a majority of the time talking with Kat Yoon about coming to our November 27th board meeting and doing an additional training and focusing more on bias work within the board. And there will be some pre-work for board members to be determined.
Can I add to that?
Please do.
It just reminded me one other thing, and I'm sure that Andrew talked to you about this earlier. That meeting was not able to be recorded, and our meeting this morning was not able to be recorded because there's like mix-up about ownership. And Andrew thought that that was given to me, and then I wasn't able to, I actually just didn't have the option anywhere on my screen to record it. So that's just like a bigger committee concern, how to create consistency, because when those meetings are recorded, it's so much easier to go back through and create minutes that are meaningful if you're the person who is also running the meeting.
Yep. And they should be recorded.
Mhm.
I'll talk to Andrew. He should be the one. That's the way we usually do it.
And I think there was some mix up with like Jenna setting meetings up and whether it came from her or you or him, and it's not really you, you know, like there was all of that, so.
Okay. We'll fix that.
Yeah.
Sorry
Thank
about that.
Great, okay. HR committee, we have a charter to approve. I'm hoping folks, it comes as a seconded motion to the board, so the board just has to vote on our charter. I don't know if anybody has any questions. And we're welcoming Susan Lilich to the committee too. So those are our 2 updates. All in favor of approving the charter? Aye or a thumb, please? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Other business, anybody have any other business?
The only thing I have is, and this I just saw today, is that they're gonna be doing, they've changed the dates for PBC testing at Browns River and Camel's Hump to November, like the 20th.
Oh, great. Thanksgiving week?
Yep.
Great.
So just to let you know,
Good time to have.
because I
More
had given,
stress.
they were supposed to do it this month, but they're not gonna, they're backlogged.
Okay. Sorry for those school principals. It's hard.
That's probably a good time to make the next week, there's no school, but we have a school board meeting scheduled, I think.
We do, that's our training.
Yep, so I'm just making that broad recommendation or realization.
Yeah. Other business. Okay, our next meeting is another Monday. I just have my calendar open. November 6th, I believe. Is that right? Or the 13th? 13th, November 13th is our next board meeting. It is, do we know where?
I think REX.
That's right.
Yep,
I
it
have
is
that in my
our,
calendar,
it
but I
is-
might be wrong.
no, you're right.
Oh, I had
REX.
here.
Do we have a tour?
I had here.
Yes, a tour and a report.
And there's a
a while ago.
tour possibility for that as well at 6 o'clock if you can make it. Just trying to give everyone a heads up on it. Is there a question?
No, we all had CHMS in our calendars from the initial.
What is it?
Oh, sorry, because we do the tour, but we do the meeting here.
Oh.
That's what we've done, because it's a better,
Space to have.
Space.
Make me
So
so
if
many
you-
scribbles here.
So if you show up at 6
So
for the
whoever
tour.
brought that up, good job, because we're gonna have the tour at 6 and then we're gonna meet here.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Hey, Edie, sorry,
Yes.
I will not be at the next board meeting, so you can plan the agenda accordingly.
Great. Try to push through a bunch of things. Thanks, Kevin. So moved. To adjourn the meeting, can I get a second? Second. Thank you, Heather. All in favor, please vote by shutting down your computer and heading back to someplace that isn't this meeting. Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody, so much. Thank you to the principals for their presentation. See you all in a few weeks.